Guardians had a chance to sweep the San Francisco Giants this week. Instead, because of their bullpen, they only won 1 out of 3. At least you can say they're consistent. They've been doing this all year. But maybe that's finally a good thing. We're going to talk about that today on Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Again, big thank you to each and every one of our everydayers who are joining us. We know it is rough when they're not playing well, when the situation is what it is, so we really do appreciate everyone jumping in. I saw Bill Stearns, one of our everydayers, was very active in the comments section. I do want to take a moment and say thank you to today's episode being brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, providing you with personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. I'm just going to have my quick hot take at the top of this, which is, listen, I'm just going to enjoy baseball while I have baseball. I miss it when it's gone so much that I am just going to be happy that I have baseball, even when it is what it is.
That's fair. That's very fair. I agree, because it is September 14th when you're all listening to this, and we've got less than 2 weeks of baseball left going into next week. So yeah, we'll miss it when it's gone, and we'll have lots to talk about over the off season and going into 2024, considering how bad this went. And shouldn't even say how bad it went, because it's not like they're going to lose 100 games. Like, it's not like they had a disastrous season. They're falling short of expectations coming into the year. And like we said at the beginning of the year, expectations are the thief of joy. So we all expected another division title run this year, and we didn't get it. So here we are. So just trying to enjoy the last bit of baseball, hoping for young players to play and show something. Emmanuel Clase pitched fine on Tuesday night. Guardians got the win. He got the save, bounced back from Monday's episode. And then he pitched on Wednesday, and he pitched fine. So
Got his 40th save of the year.
You've got
that was Tuesday. I'm losing.
Tuesday was the 40th save. He just didn't allow a run in a tie game in the 9th inning, which was good to see.
Two strikeouts too, right? Which people are going to love me talking over and interrupting you, but that's
2 strikeouts on 15 pitches.
Yeah, so it's nice to see that K rate up.
He's been efficient the last 2. I mean, he was efficient blowing the save on Monday, and he was efficient getting the save Tuesday, and he was efficient in a non-save situation on Wednesday. So he pitched 3 days in a row. He's pitched 6 out of 8. Jeff's got some interesting. Yeah, it is too much for the way this team is right now. Like that's the problem, is this team is obviously not going to the playoffs. They really should be ramping down Clase's use, not ramping it up. It's so silly that I know, look, Tito's trying to win and the players want to win, and you're not trying to give in.
I thought they gave up. I thought they quit on the team in July. Wasn't that the story people wanted?
Yeah, when they traded Bell and Ahmed. Yeah, they quit. Right. That was what happened. The guys are still trying to win. So, like, I get you want to give if the guys go out there and fight and you're winning a game, you want to win when you have a chance, and it's a young team. They need to win. But man, they really got to be thinking about next year and ramping down Clase's usage. And it's not like you've already got him under contract, so his money can't go up. But I'm sure he has escalators in his contract by stats too. I'm sure he's got bonuses for things like 40 saves. But 6 of 8 games is a lot in September, when he's already he's gonna surpass last year's usage total. And we talked about yesterday, Tito overuses relievers, and he could be one of them. But it wasn't Clase's problem on Tuesday and Wednesday why this team blew
they won
another
Tuesday,
game.
So definitely not his fault. And Wednesday,
right, not his fault either. Eli Morgan had his turn to blow up. Curry, didn't have a great 10th. De Los Santos got himself into some trouble too. It's the bipolar bullpen. Everybody has a chance to screw up, and that's an equal opportunity thing, like we've talked about all year. If it's not one guy, it's another, and if it's not one day, it's the next. It's a bipolar bullpen. Bullpens do this year to year. Here's why it's actually a good. I'm going to pretend it's a good thing that the bullpen is doing this consistently at this point. I am hoping that the fact that everybody is all having their struggles spread out, and it's not just one person, it's multiple people, that this will force the Guardians to actually address the bullpen in the offseason. I don't know how they're going to do it. They don't usually pay for relievers on the market, and they shouldn't, because it's a bad way to chase.
I'm going to say you can chase relievers. It's almost
no. It's a fool's errand. Free agent
trading for him or signing him is bad.
It's bad. Yeah. Look at the last time they did this with actual money. Well, unless you want to count Brian Shaw, which, by the way, Brian Shaw is the White Sox closer right now. That's fun. He's actually having a decent year by peripheral, so watch him come back to Cleveland next year. Everybody's going to turn the episode off after me saying that. But the last time the Guardians really went out of their way to sign a free agent reliever that wasn't Brian Shaw was Boone Logan, and that blew up in their face. So they really shouldn't go on the free agent market for reliever, but they should address the bullpen over the offseason. And, you and I talk about Cade Smith and Franco Alaman and Tim Herron. We like those guys. But you can only have so many young pitchers in your bullpen. You can't have those three and Stephan and Henches and how inexperienced they are. You need a little more help than that. I don't know how it's going to have to be through a trade somehow. And trades are more likely with relievers. But I'm going to pretend that this bullpen being such an issue this year for them, that it's going to actually force the Guardians to go out and address the problem over the offseason, because it's a problem. They cannot come into next year and assume that this bullpen is going to be good enough to win the division. Not the way they've performed this year. They could be, because they were last year, and bullpens are usually never the same year to year. So maybe they'll have an absolute reverse next year, but I'm going to pretend it's a good thing they're blowing these games, because maybe it'll force them to address the bullpen.
I'm gonna strongly disagree. Here we go. We finally get one of these. I don't think you address the bullpen, because, again, it's been weird and fluky. But as we talked about with Clase, there's things to fix, things to get better. It still isn't the worst. It's not like by most numerical numbers the terrible bullpen. It's actually still a good bullpen. And yeah, there's some pieces to upgrade. And I think you just keep moving in the young guys, because signing someone is always too expensive. And, you're paying them for past performance, and bullpen. The worst place to spend your free agent money is on bullpen.
I'm not saying they should sign a free agent.
And if you trade for someone that has been equally as bad over the years, we'll see how it works out with the Paul Sewald deal. But that is, people want to talk about Edwin Diaz, but that Edwin Diaz deal looked really poor for a few years, and they basically ended up getting one great year out of him. So for the same reason that bullpen pieces are so flammable and are so risky that you're talking about, is the reason that I think you stay the course and you don't commit to the bullpen. You roll with what you got. You maybe even trade away some of those kind of middling pieces if it can get you something. And
I do
see
agree
what the
with
new guys can be. I just think it's going to be too expensive to go out and get those. For those who are curious, the Emmanuel Clase contract, if he gets to 200 innings pitched or appearances in 2022 through 2026, he gets $500,000. Then it goes to $1 million, then to $2 million. By the way, he's at about 140 right now, so he's going to get there pretty easily with it'll be 24, 25, and 26. He's probably going to get the full $2 million, and that makes his options go up by $1 to $2 million. So them sitting there and overplaying him is just going to make him a guy. So instead of being a $10 million club option those last 2 years, Tito has used him so much that's going to jump up to 12, which isn't the hugest thing, but until we get new ownership, I mean, $2 million going there is something you can't spend. I mean, every penny counts. So hopefully by the time we're talking 2027, everything will be flipped over fully, but it's just dumb. Having him pitch in 6 out of 8 days is dumb. This team isn't going anywhere. Don't risk that arm. It's categorically the wrong call. Like we've discussed on the show, Eli Morgan has been really poor in the second half, just like a year ago. Mm-hmm. I understand that there's a lot of guys who need rest. Yeah, honestly, in that situation, it's like, I know Curry lost the game, but Curry should have been the one out there. Like, try to get 2 to 3 innings out of him, because he's a starter. He's your long guy. Have him go. Don't pitch Clase. And then the other thing is just keep looking at the draft rankings, because right now Cleveland would pick 12th. You know who got picked 12th in last year's draft?
Matt Shaw.
That was Matt Shaw, was it not?
Matt Shaw. You're too late for Cleveland.
I know.
Hey, the year before was Chase DeLauder.
I think he was like 14, right? Isn't that 14? It was the first and only time they picked 14. 12 might have been Will Benson, if my memory serves. But
that sounds right.
But the bigger point here is this is a good deep class. There's a chance that you could listen. Matt Shaw was my number 5 rated player. I was very high on him. But you can still get a very good
Agree
player.
with you on that, by the way.
And at this point in time, it's like, how crazy is it that with as bad as they are, the Washington Nationals are currently 10th. They've actually recovered. San Diego is 11th in this. If we're doing a draft, Cleveland 12th.
Can Washington pick 10th? Are they allowed to pick 10th?
That is, or no,
they can't pick higher than 10th.
No, they would be. I'm sorry, that's where I got it wrong. They would be tied for 5th, but they're going to pick 10th. But still,
so they can't pick any higher than 10th.
No. But I mean, the fact that they'd be tied for 5th. Right now, it's San Diego and then Pittsburgh. Remember when Pittsburgh was giving out contract extensions after their hot start?
Oh Lord, yes.
Yeah, it's kind of comical. Cleveland's had their struggles. We're gonna take our first break. Come back. I crunched a ton of numbers today. It'll be fun. You get to find out. I went through and dug old game logs to find out who has been the most efficient Cleveland closers, and I think you'll be surprised in a moment on today's Locked On Guardians.
Maybe the Guardians will target relievers. Maybe they won't. They should make some moves over the offseason for sure, because building a championship team is all about getting the right parts to fit. Passion, drive, patience are what brings home the winning trophy. It also keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle. Level up the peak performance from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. If you're into speed, power, style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need or the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebay.com/motors. eBay Guaranteed Fit, available only to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Take the day off Thursday, do something fun. The Guardians are off. But Friday, the Guardians are back at home. They are going to host the Texas Rangers this weekend, who will not have Max Scherzer. He is out for the season with the teres major strain. That's a bummer for everybody. But the Guardians will be throwing Lucas Giolito for the third time. We'll see how that goes. The Rangers don't have a starter. You can listen to that game on the SiriusXM app while you're at a high school football game. Just search Guardians on your XM app. All right. Jeff's got some closer numbers, and then I got one thing I saw interesting on Twitter today about one-run games too. So, Jeff, give us your closer numbers.
You showed me that one. First, I want to give a shout out to our everydayer, Robert Gross _JN3NW, who's like 13 hours ago before this last night after he watched, was like, I think our two most unreliable relievers are we said Sandler. I think he meant Sandlin and Morgan. And it's like, that feels pretty omniscient now. So yeah, I went through, and the annoying thing is, just give some basic background. I'm gonna have to edit that later. Annoyance. I did it again, but man, I'm just gonna keep going this whole. But we go through that before 2001, they don't track blown saves, and before 1999, they don't track games finished. So if you go and look at, like, let's say Jose Mesa on Baseball Reference, it'll say games saved, and it'll be perfect. They just have perfect. So essentially, for every pitcher before 1999, I had to go through their game logs. And if you go there, it does say. So it's not the longest dig. But I went through and I did every player in the top 11. And why did I go 11 deep? It's because I have a soft spot for Steve Olin, who was like the first closer I paid attention to as a kid. And the interesting thing is the highest save percentage of any of the, well, a few things are interesting. One, Emmanuel Clase is now 43 saves away from Cody Allen. He might become the all-time saves leader next season with the way he has gone these last few years.
Hopefully he will.
Yeah.
If things go well even if things don't go well, he might get 43 this year. So,
I mean, Steve Olin is 11th all-time at 48, to give you how this kind of works. Mike Jackson, most efficient closer at 89.5% of his opportunities he converted. Number 2, I did not expect to see Brad Hand at 89%, just like 3/10 or 300ths. I said, no, 3,000ths behind him. Cody Allen was also at 89%. Or no, I'm sorry, Bob Wickman was also 89%.
The guy everyone said did it the hard way, or scared everybody. He had one of the most efficient numbers, huh? Look at that. Bob Wickman was very underrated in his career.
He really was. And, it's like Cody Allen, And yes, you could probably sit back and be like, what happens if we eliminate that last year where Cody Allen wasn't, where his arm had essentially died
Falling
on the
off,
altar
yeah.
of Tito's overuse? And yeah, he then goes to the top of the list, but he's 5th. Did not expect Chris Perez at 6, Ray Narleski 7. Jose Mesa currently has a higher save percentage than Emmanuel Clase at 84.
Even
This
though
year is
Clase was
bad.
past him, yeah.
I mean, he has 11 this year. He has 20 blown saves in his career in Cleveland, 11 this year.
Mhm.
If you did not listen to yesterday's show, we explain why. Like, we actually, it's one of the few times I can say I feel very confident that we broke down why Clase is struggling this year and how it can be fixed.
And it's not hard to fix it
no.
either. It's not like it's anything alarming.
But yeah,
So go back and listen to that, because most of you clearly didn't.
Yeah, the numbers. But what's interesting is after Clase, there is Clase is at 84%. So we're talking like 89.5 to 84. Like, that group is all pretty close in there. And Ray Narleski was like in the 50s or 60s. Either way, like, he's a different era guy. So he's in there. But then you go Joe Borowski, where he is down at 81, just shy of 81.
That sounds about more right.
That's a drop
for him.
Then Doug Jones, who's another guy, much like Cody Allen, where his final year was ugly. And he has the most blown saves of anyone in franchise history that I saw at 34. Number 2 is Cody Allen with 23. So, and then you have Steve Owen was the lowest I saw at 77. Now, he also worked as a setup man for a few years before he was the closer, which
So did Cody Allen
and Mike Jackson. But those count against your, I just took all blown saves.
Yeah.
I just took
yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Opportunities when you're sometimes not the closer. So I took all. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I did remember Mike Jackson being really good. I wasn't only in 3 years, and I didn't. Brad Hand, though, to me is the biggest surprise, because it felt like I just remember like Aaron Gleeman calling him a sleeper agent for the Twins back. Was that like 2019 when Cleveland, basically the mirror of this year, where they took over first for like a weekend, and then Hand blew it. He's from Minnesota, and he blew a series of games late in July, and then they never really recovered.
Yeah, he wasn't the closer in 2018 because they still had Miller and Allen, even though they were both pretty much depleted by then.
How short he was here. Like, they went out of their way to get him, and then it was
half of 18, all of 19, and then all of 20, and then he was gone in 21. I mean, he was not good in 2020, even though it was a short year. He was bad in the second half of 2019.
2020, he had an ERA under 2, I thought, when I looked at the data. He
didn't
have a single blown save that year.
The numbers were good, but I think everybody saw that he was pretty much done because
no one wanted him down.
He couldn't shrink. Yeah. I remember 2019, he was good when the first half. The second half is when he kind of was falling apart.
2020 had a 2.05 ERA. He had a 1.37
I know, nobody believed he was going to hold up.
It's just
no one believed that was going to hold up.
He led the league in saves. Weirdly, he was really good that year.
Yeah, he was throwing like 89, 91 and had nobody was swinging the curveball. Okay. On the reliever thing, just one last note before I get to the one-run games. In terms of addressing the bullpen next year, I mean, obviously Lopez and Moore are free agents. The only guys I would guarantee spots to next season are Clase, Steffen, and Henches. Everybody else, the spot should be up for grabs, whether you find a way to trade for some young reliever, or you have rookies or something, or maybe you find someone on the scrap heap you believe in, like another De Los Santos. Move on from De Los Santos, find the next De Los Santos before De Los Santos actually hits the wall, because at some point that's coming. And but I mean, those are the only 3 spots I feel like you should be locked into next year. Whether you're trying Cody Morris, whether you give Cade Smith a chance to lock a spot down, leave room for Frank Wallman to push his way up, maybe putting
Gaddis.
Yeah, Gaddis and Curry in the bullpen. We'll see. But only 3 spots I feel really safe, guaranteeing for next year. Guardians this year are, look, one run games are incredibly fluky. They are not something you can say are skill. Now, if you have a good bullpen, yeah, you're going to win a lot of one-run games. That's why the Guardians did it last year. That's why they're not doing it this year, because of the bullpen. But as we said, bullpens from year to year are fickle. They're going to this whole group could come back next year and be good. They could. Just that's the way bullpens sometimes work. They're 24 and 29 now in one-run games because they lost today was a one-run loss, right? So they're 24 and 29. Last year they were 28 and 17. So they played less one-run games a year ago. But there was a good someone found this on Reddit on Twitter. if you reversed all the decisions of a one-run game to the opposite. So if the Guardians instead, this was before today's game, so they would have been 28 and 24 and 28 coming into one-run games today. If they had gone 28 and 24 in one-run games this year, they would be 73 and 73 before Wednesday's game. So they'd be 500. That would still put them 7.5 behind the Twins, because the Twins have also lost a lot of one-run games. So even though that probably says more about the offense than the bullpen, but it also says the Twins also had some bad luck. I love looking at the East in this graphic, the AL East, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube. The only team that the Rays would run away with it. They would be 95 and 51 if they reversed all the one-run games. The division wouldn't even be close, and right now the Orioles are in first place. So it's a fluky thing, and this number is never going to carry year to year. You're always going to have some good luck in one year, some bad luck in the other. The Guardians are on the end of some bad luck. They were on the end of some good luck a year ago. But hey, if your bullpen doesn't walk guys, maybe they hold runners, because what happened in the ninth inning on Wednesday? Clase let a runner on. That runner stole second. Luckily, Clase struck out 2 batters and got out of it. But maybe that's how the Guardians run. Maybe the Guardians don't add a bullpen, any bullpen arms over the offseason. Maybe they actually go into spring training and teach their relievers how to hold runners on. Like, I don't know if the philosophy for relievers is, hey, forget about the runner, just get the hitter out, which, is a strategy people do teach. It's fine. But in this day and age with the rules, I think you have to change that a little bit. So maybe they address that next year. Maybe that's where my hope lies about this bullpen. Maybe they will address holding runners next year. Jose has looked a little better lately. We'll talk about him. We'll talk about Triston McKenzie's rehab start, and we'll let you know what's coming up on Friday's show here in just a minute.
And it is time to talk about our good friends over at Jase Medical. I went through today and I filled out the forms. It was all pretty quick and easy. I talked about last time my issues with sinus infections and how nice it is the ability to have antibiotics on hand to take care of those when they pop up. Because if you're someone like me with a chronic condition, you're now not caught unprepared. You don't have to wait to see the doctor. You're going to be able to attack that problem, get to the root of it. And, just be smart in what you do. Don't overuse or use a medication you don't need it. That's just me speaking. But, if you can be responsible, Jase is the perfect person for you. You're going to get 5 life-saving antibiotics, super easy to use and sign up for. Go check out Jase for yourself. So save more than $300 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jase Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using the code LOCKEDON at checkout at jasemedical.com. That's Jase, JASEMEDICAL.com.
Guardians off on Thursday, but Friday night, if you're not at the game and you're at a high school football game, take your headphones, listen to the game on your Sirius XM app. That game's at 7:10. You can listen to Lucas Giolito trying to get the Texas Rangers out, who are fighting for a lot right now without Adolis Garcia, without Max Scherzer. We'll see how that goes. Should be a good test for the Guardians. Listen to that game in your Sirius XM app. Just search Guardians. How about Jose? Another home run today in the first inning off Kyle Harrison.
23rd?
23rd home run. Was off a lefty. He's not done well against lefties this year, but he's hit home runs against Clayton Kershaw, and then there was somebody else after that, and then there was the one of Kyle Harrison, who Kyle Harrison's not, he's still breaking in as a rookie, but he's a nice prospect. He's a very good
Tanner Bybee, that's for sure.
Well, nobody is. There is no rookie pitcher that is Tanner Bybee this year, except for Gavin Williams and except for Logan Allen. But even they don't compare. But he hit a home run of him, which is good. Coming into Wednesday, Jose had a 133 WRC plus since Josh Naylor's return back on September 3rd. He had a very, very bad August, as we've noted. His BABIP was like 220 or something ridiculously bad.
There was one of the worst months of his career, and he had so far. When we talked about last, just to do what everyone loves and interrupt you, but it was the worst year of his career, and since 2017, 2018. It was one of the bottom 3 years he's had. It was probably worse than any of the slumps he had in the end of 18, beginning of 19, when he was
having issues pulling the ball and whatever. Yeah, he hit 207 in the month of August, and it was a 73 WRC plus. The only reason it was so high is because he walked more than he struck out. But with the home run today, his WRC plus in September is over 100. He's got over an 800 OPS in September. I don't know. Maybe it's because Josh Naylor's back. Since September 3rd, when Josh Naylor came back, he's been much better. I don't think whatever Jose was doing in August. I mean, again, it was a 208 BABIP, so it was really bad. And if you look at the batted ball data in August for Jose, he was hitting the ball harder in August than he had hit at any point this season. The only difference was he was hitting more ground balls in August than he had at any point this year, and hitting less fly balls. So maybe some bad luck. I don't know. He was walking more and he struck out. I wasn't super concerned, but he wasn't going to stay in that funk forever. I think that the Josh Naylor return makes a big deal, though, for him. I don't think it's a coincidence.
And I think it's, I do think that helps. I do wonder about health. I don't think I'm alone in that. But it's also interesting, too, because we've really seen Bo Naylor pick up in this time as well. It's not just Jose who's seeming to jump. We've seen.
Yeah, Bo had another good day today. I think he had a hit. He didn't have anything else. He had a hit.
He seems to get at least one.
He played against the lefty.
Yeah,
that's a start.
He continues to impress. So it's early in the school year. I've got planning periods before anyone calls me a bad teacher. And I also have a lunch period, and I give up my lunch and students come and sit in my room and eat and we chat. But sometimes they just want to kind of sit and eat. So I have time, and on top of compiling the saves, I used saves was lunch because that was less work. And then I had to stay after school for an hour and work on paperwork that I had already gotten done because I'm that type of person. I don't like having things hanging over me. And so what I used that extra time instead of playing on my phone was I made an extra base hit ratio and a weighted extra base hit ratio. Basically, the idea being an extra base hit, seeing how often players on this team are hitting extra base hits per plate appearance. And then the weighted version is I'm just weighting the value, like how many bases you get with that extra base hit. So just, a home run is more valuable than double. A triple is more valuable than any of those.
So is it WOBA?
I don't actually know how you make WOBA. So
it sounds a lot like WOBA.
I don't know. But it's not WOBA because my numbers are very different. But I mean, maybe
it's WOBA adjacent.
You can pull up WOBA and see if these things would be the same as WOBA. So I sat here and worked through this, and it's interesting. I did the 18 players on this team that have had over 100 plate appearances this year. The worst should be no surprise that it's Cam Gallagher, and number 2 Miles Straw, number 3 Ty Freeman, and then 4th Stephen Kwan. Those guys just do not hit extra bases. That is in the weighted version, I should say. Oscar Gonzalez is next on the list, and he would be below Kwan in the non-weighted version. But yeah, it's bad when Oscar Gonzalez is bottom 5 because his job is
Does Cam Gallagher even have an extra base hit this year?
He has 6 doubles.
Wow. I'm very surprised he even has that. If you would have said 0, I would have believed you.
He has 6 doubles. But yeah, no, Straw and Gallagher are definitely head and shoulders below everyone else. At the top of this list, Josh Naylor. Again, I don't think that's a surprise. But if you just do extra base ratio, it's Jose Ramirez. But if you do the weighted version by 2, actually, when you do it originally, it's by what? That'd be 10,000ths of a point. Bo Naylor is higher than Jose Ramirez. So
what's your weights? Because like a home run on WOBA is 210 times the homer, and then their triple is like 162 or something.
I'd have to go look exactly. It's not anywhere like they have a specific reason. I don't have I just kind of weighted it kind of more of a general way. That's why this is not a stat that I would share with the world. That's why it's for fun for the podcast, but this isn't me trying to go to a sabermetric conference. But I just thought it's interesting that Bo Naylor is currently ahead of Jose. Again, that's really positive for next year. David Fry is the next guy after the big 3. And then you had Josh Bell, who is eerily close to Gabby Arias, just a little bit better. And, I know Gabby had his double today. He still has his ups and downs. I'm going to sneeze.
Rough series for him. He went over 4 the other night with the golden sombrero, and he's faced some lefties in this series, and he has not looked great. So still a lot of ups and downs there. I agree.
And a lot of people talk about how bad he is against lefties. And you've talked about that a lot of
Nobody
times.
understands why. Nobody
No.
understands it.
And just, we thought that Josh Naylor couldn't hit lefties until he did, and you kind of have to give guys reps, and I'm coming along to your point of view on that. But also that was interesting, too, that Will Brennan, who's just ahead of Oscar Gonzalez, did have a higher extra base hit ratio than Gonzalez and Straw. So Mike Zunino, you're middle of the pack. Andres Jimenez and Cole Calhoun, very close in the weighted. Cole Calhoun, 9th. Laureano below Zunino, but ahead of Rosario. That was it. It was not enough plate appearances. Brennan and Rosario are basically the same hitter in terms of extra base hits. So take that for what it is worth. It was weird that Brennan doesn't have any triples with his speed. And that was one that stood out to me. But I just thought it was interesting. I don't know. Again, it gives me a lot of hope. And maybe you can tell me like, oh, we saw what happens. Second year, sophomore slump. But Bo Naylor's doing something special. And that's part of why I enjoy watching this team right now. Gabby Arias is incredibly frustrating, but there's something. This team needs power. I'm curious to see what he can do.
Bo Naylor is a reason to tune in for sure.
And then the
especially when the young pitchers are throwing to him.
Yeah,
if you got Bybee, Williams, and Allen thrown to him, and then we might get Bieber and McKenzie back for a start. Like to wrap this up, like Jose ending the year on a good note would be very good for next year because then you don't go into next year wondering if he has a great September, like a September Jose is capable of. You don't go into next year kind of with questions about where he's at and where it's going for him. Like we all agree at some point, Jose is going to hit a decline, and it's we'll talk about this in a future episode. I don't think it's going to be like a dramatic fall off. At some point, he is going to drop off, and it could be soon. But you don't have to do a whole lot of hand wringing over the offseason going into April. What kind of Jose Ramirez are we going to get next year? Because if let's say he had that bad August and September, let's say he has that. What did I say it was? It was a 70 WRC plus, whatever it was. It was pretty bad in August.
It was bad.
Let's say he did that in September. Well, then you worry coming into spring training. Okay, what was that a sign of something to come? But if he has a great September, maybe you worry about that a little bit less. So, and that's also why I think that Bieber and McKenzie are pushing to come back. And we'll have a whole offseason conversation on Bieber and what his future holds. McKenzie did have a rehab start on Wednesday night. He went 3 innings, struck out 4, allowed a hit and a run and a walk. Got up to 94, threw all of his pitches, looked pretty good. He seemed pretty confident and healthy after the game, too. So stands to the reason both those guys are going to be making at least one start. He threw 44 pitches. Bieber threw somewhere in the 50s. So it wouldn't shock me if the Guardians just decide to say their next outing comes in Cleveland. Maybe they'll both get one more rehab outing. I don't know. But they're both at the point where their next start could be in the 60 or 70 range pitch wise. And with the 28-man roster with an extra bullpen arm, maybe you just make that in the majors and see what happens. Although I don't know who goes for them. That's a conversation for maybe tomorrow or another day. But stands the reason those guys will be back soon. And that could be a good thing going into next year because you talk about Bieber, McKenzie, Bybee, Williams, Allen, Quantrill. That's really fun. That has a chance to be a promising rotation, and maybe you trade Quantrill. I don't know. Maybe you trade Bieber. Who knows? But could be a lot of fun. Speaking of tomorrow's show, Jeff, we're finally going to do it. We are finally going to have our manager conversation. There's no game on Thursday. You and I put together a pretty long list. You've got a list of, I don't know how big your list is, but you have the most interesting name on your list, I will say.
Yeah, I've got one main guy that I feel like is a really good candidate.
Yeah, and I'm on board with you on that name. So we're going to talk about managers tomorrow. Who could the Guardians go after? We're going to talk about why they could go after him. We're going to talk about what skills, what they should be looking for, what kind of skills we think are the Guardians should be bringing over to the organization for a new manager, how this whole thing should play out. We're finally going to have a long conversation about it, as long as we're allowed to have it. But there's no game to talk about tomorrow, so we're finally going to talk about managerial candidates to lead this team next year. I'm excited about that episode, so you should definitely want to tune into that because I think it's going to be interesting, especially the names I'm going to throw out there and the one name Jeff's going to throw out there at the very least. I don't know who else is on your list, Jeff, but
I got to have a few surprises that I keep. But
that one name is really good. I've got a couple surprises as well, but we've both done our homework on this, so I'm excited to talk about it tomorrow, so you should definitely tune in.
I want to thank you all again, all of our everydayers, everyone taking part, for joining us and having some fun.
Tell a friend.
Talking over each other.
Tell them we still exist.
Yes. It's always a good time, even if the Guardians lose. We are here having fun and in trying to inform. But thank you all, and go Guardians, go.